Good morning, good evening, or whenever what time you're watching this. This is the DOUG here for 3 video game reviews. Now all of these games have a theme. They are all kid games. Now, I picked these up at MagFest, because they pretty much reminded me of my childhood from back in the day. So for that reason alone I figured, oh, let's pick them up. Played them, and now I'm here to review them. So let's start with the first one of the 3. Tiny Toon Adventures. Plucky's Big Adventure. Yep. Believe it or not, they still make Tiny Toon games. They used to. This was the excuse me. This was released September 21st, 2001. So that should tell you they were still making PS1. PS1 was still hanging on. In North America, and developed by Walt and published by Conspiracy Games. Now the game's focus is on Plucky Duck, the green feathered co-star of Tiny Toon Adventures. Based on an actual episode of the series, Plucky is attempting to build a time machine because he forgot to do his homework. Haven't we all wanted to do that? Plucky, piece of advice: get a DeLorean. It's easier. He needs help with his show co-host to find the parts to finish the time machine. In his missions, the players control one of 4 characters, each with their own chapters. Plucky Duck, Hampton J. Pig, and Babs and Buster Bunny, no relation. Then the player hunts around Acme University, finding the acquired items using clues to picked up in the game. The player must then trade out items as found before finally finding the required item needed for the chapter. Familiar faces from the series appear during the missions and often help you. However, Elmira and Monty Max are hindrances trying to capture the player. Yeah, it's pretty much a find shit that you need to build a bicycle to go back in time. Now, graphically, graphically it's bad. Okay, I've never seen something so bad on the ads, and this was in 2001. I would expect better graphics because it's only 10 years old. I'm sorry, I've seen better graphics from games from the 90s on the PlayStation 1. Okay, Vigilante 8 had better graphics. Now, and I gotta be honest, there is some feedback from this. IGN said it was the worst Tiny Toon game of all time. I suppose for the PlayStation Magazine, surprisingly, they gave it a 0.7 out of 1.0. They said the game pushes back all the other Tiny Toon games, and it's one of the best, and its gameplay can be completed under 3 hours. Yes, you can beat this game in under 3 hours. It is very short. I will agree with that. But controls-wise, it's okay, but graphically, it's terrible. The sound is okay. It does have that Tiny Toons feel to it, but it doesn't help it. Like I always do, I will give my final score at the end of the video. Now let's go to the second game in my collection that I picked up. This one is called Flintstones Bedrock Bowling. Here's the little do-do-do. Oh, by the way, I forgot. This is what the Tiny Toons disc open looks like. And there's the cover. Well, the guidebook, I should say. Whatever, instruction manual, whatever. Now, like I said, this is the second one. Bedrock Bowling. There's the cover. There's the disc. And there's the other side of the manual. And, of course, there's the back. This game was released July 14th in 2000. It was released in Europe and North America. Pretty much the story is you're pretty much bowling. That's it. The characters are on a giant hollowed out bowling ball, controlling and trying to knock down pins spread throughout levels. There are many levels and you have to avoid some obstacles without extra frames to try again on. All in one shot you must knock down all the pins. This was published by, at least in North America, South Peak Games. Some people may have never heard of them. Neither have I until I picked this game up, believe it or not. They actually have done some games though, believe it or not. Here are the games they've done on PS3. Hair to the Champ, Monster Madness, Legendary, X-Blades, 3 Dot Game Heroes, 2 Words. So they have done some games. There's no doubt on that they have done some games. Now back to the Flintstones. It's actually very interesting. Granted the storyline is stupid, but the characters feel like you're watching a cartoon episode. Just as a heads up, you get to play as Fled, of course. You got to play as Fred Flintstone. Bonnie Rubble, you get to play as. Bam Bam, Pebbles, and Dino. Now, just to give you an assumption of the story, I'm just going to read it from the instruction book. Fred's ready to go bowling, but his boss, Mr. Slate, is making him work overtime at the quarry. So how are Fred and Bonnie going to practice for the bowling tournament in the this coming weekend? No problem. Thanks to the space alien powered Gazoo, Gazoo transforms the whole town into 12 giant bowling lanes, so that Fred and Bonnie can practice while they're on the job. Gazoo also turns the bowling balls into bowling shells, making them large and cutting them in half so Fred and Bonnie can ride down the bowling lanes. Pebbles, Bam Bam, and Dino can play too. Now there actually are settings for the story mode: easy, medium, and hard. Yeah, so interesting on that. Really, not really too much other hardness. I mean, it's a very easy game to pick up. I mean, which is very interesting. It just does surprise me a bit. You do have some bowling lanes. You have the gravel factory, the quarry, the flooded quarry, the tar pits. You also got some bonus lanes in the Rubble's backyard pool, Bedrock freeway, crystal mine, lava, Rockzilla, water buffalo lodge, Zentox, and Gazoo's asteroid is a hidden level. Now, pretty much, I gotta be honest, you really are only gonna want to get this game if you're a Flintstones fan or you like bowling. Now, it's a good game. Graphically, not bad. Not as bad as Tiny Toon Adventures, Plucky's Big Adventure. And the controls do work fine. See what my final score is? Watch at the end of the video. Now, the last game in this triage of kiddie games I picked up. This one I solely picked up because of who's on the cover. I never played it as a kid. Now, I may remind you, I did not play the Flintstones, Bedrock Bowling, or Tiny Toon Adventures when I was a kid. Because when they came out, I was a little old, because I was born in 1988, folks. But I got these games because it reminds me of my childhood when I used to watch them on television. There's the key word. Now, the last one. Disney's. Walt Disney's World Quest Magic Racing Tour. As you can see, yeah, I kind of got to get, the case is broke. There's the disc, there's the manual. By the way, this is promoting 102 Dalmatians on the back. Ain't that crazy? I didn't even know they made a game for that. Anyway, Walt Disney's World Quest Magic Racing Tour is a racing game based on the attractions of Walt Disney World Resort. Players compete in races on tracks inspired by attractions such as the Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, Space Mountain, and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad to acquire missing parts for the park's fireworks machine, which was accidentally destroyed by Chip and Dale while they were getting acorns. Now, the disc was developed by Crystal Dramatics. Yeah. It was developed by them. Who would have thought that? By the way, these are the guys working on the new Tomb Raider. Ain't that funny? Those made the gag saying. And it was published by Eidos Interactive, which is now part of Square Enix to a certain extent. And it's made a lot of games. List of Eidos games. You got Batman Arkham Asylum. Yeah, go figure. Yeah, they've made a lot of games. Let's just admit it. They made a lot. Now this one, yeah, you can tell it's ripping off Mario and Crash Tag Team Racing. Because I always say those were the best. Now this came out March 23rd in 2000 for the Dreamcast, Game Boy Color, PC, and PlayStation. And I know, before I forget, Flintstones Bedrock Bowling came out for the PlayStation and Windows. And Tiny Toon Adventures, Plucky's Big Adventure, only came out on the PlayStation. Thank God for that. Anyway, back to Magic Racing Tour. There are 13 playable races, including pretty much only 2 you need to know about, Chip and Dale, because everybody else is pretty much a rip-off of a different character. And I'm not going to even give them the time of day because they're the only ones that you'll never heard of, alright? Case in point, let me just go through the character selection here just so I can... Okay, where the hell is it? Bedrock. Okay. Of course you got Chip in there, that's obvious. Amanda Spark thinks she's a fucking queen. Baron Clement thinks he's a Haunted Mansion ghost. Bruno Briggs is pretty much the ripoff of Bruno from Popeye. And Pete. Raleigh Roger, pirate gimmick. Oliver Quinky III thinks he's Indiana Jones. Tara Damage pretty much is the freaking queen, is the... How can I say this? She is the, she's the magician. She's like, I think, the teenage daughter of the duck, of the female witch duck from DuckTales. Mo Whiplash, pretty much a bear. Otto Plugnut, an idiot. Jiminy Cricket, hey, that's the only other one you know. Ned Shitabitter, yeah. He's pretty much trying to be a ripoff of Goofy's son. And XUD71, Zid, yeah. See, he kind of looks like a dumbass from what I've seen of him. Now, like I said, this is pretty much a ripoff of Crash Team Racing and Mario Party. So they're all projectiles and all that good stuff. And some of the racing vehicles are very depending on the track. They are, for example, Logs at Splash Mountain, Locomotives of Big Thunder, Mountain Railroad, Doom Buggies in the Haunted Mansion, and Time Rovers at Disney's Animal Kingdom Dinosaur. Yes. For some reason, that made it in. Now the soundtrack is the interesting thing to me in this, because it features authentic Disney music from the attractions, with the exception of Space Mountain, which features music from the Disneyland versions, and Rock and Roll Coaster, which does not feature Aerosmith as the actual attraction does. Interesting enough, the soundtrack to the game contains at least 3 holdovers from past Crystal-O-Matic games. The music for Dinosaur is lifted from the prehistoric channel level of Gex Under the Gecko. The music for Blizzard Beach is lifted from Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko, a blend from the portion containing the Gex 3 theme replaced by a section of Tis the Season to Be Jolly. Lastly, the music for Rock and Roll Coaster is delivered from Total Eclipse Aquinas Major, the first level in the game. All of these games have been released on the PlayStation. Total Eclipse was released as Total Eclipse Turbo, a console which this game is also on. Now, pretty much like I said, it is ripping off Mario Kart and Crash Team Racing. Or Crash Team Racing, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, and what surprises me, it got released so all over the place, but it does not have a good reputation from what I've seen of people. Most people don't even know it exists, believe it or not. I mean, I showed it to the guys, because I was pretty much hanging around with some people, and believe it or not a damn person heard one of these. So that does worry me a bit. But what are my final scores for these games? And I do apologize if the lighting sucks, but hey, deal with it. Tiny Toon Adventures, Plucky's Big Adventure gets a 1 out of 5. It is without a doubt one of the worst PlayStation 1 games I've ever played. The only reason you should own this is because you like Tiny Toon Adventures. Other than that, stay the hell away. Flintstones Bedrock Bowling, I actually give that a 3 out of 5. It's not bad. It is kind of short and easy, but it is playable. So I would recommend it, just for, try to get it on the download cheap. If you can, you shouldn't pay over $10 for this game. It's not one of the rare Flintstone games, okay? I can tell you that right here, right now. It is not. Those would be the NES cartridges. Now, that being said, of course, get it if you like bowling, or if you like the Flintstones, or you just like those kind of weird PS1 game combinations. Suppose for the last one, Walt Disney's World Quest Magic Racing Tour. I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5 as well. It is playable, and the soundtrack is good. Graphically, it's decent. But only get this if you love Chip and Dale, the Chip and Dale guys, or if you love Mario Kart and Crash Team Racing and you want to see you want to see Disney's take on it. All right. So, Tiny Toons, 1 out of 5. Flintstones Bowling and Walt Disney's World Quest Magic Racing Tour get a 3 out of 5. Let me know what you think of these games if you have played them, and tune in later this week, or this weekend I should say, for my finally get back to it, my Wide Water Sports episode 10. I got a lot to talk about. Until then, this is the DOUG signing out. Woo!